What's good? We back live for Fayettenam. And sorry I was running a little bit late. Had some issues. The StreamYard wasn't working. And then we had a breaker go out, so we had to get a breaker changed. And we had a special guest waiting, and we about to bring him on. A lot of y'all cats definitely know about this cat if you know real hip hop. Uh, he worked with Master Ace back in the days. He's a producer and a rapper. Produced a lot of records for a lot of cats. Let's bring on the one and only Lord Digga.
Yes,
How you doing,
sir.
man?
We live for Vietnam. I'm good, bro.
You been through here
You
before?
know,
You been through Fayetteville, North Carolina
nah.
before?
I think
Okay,
we have like back.
you probably
Um,
did.
but yeah, and cause back, rap was still connecting. As far as other regions, if it wasn't certain areas that were, really supported for, especially East Coast music at that time. If you wasn't like super big in the sense of MTV and stuff of that nature, which we later did anyway. But you might not be recognized and you might not make it into those areas back then, like a Fayetteville and you know places of that nature. But North Carolina is since the '90s, North Carolina has come up anyway. It's way bigger than
Yeah.
what I'm saying, it was back then. But I'm from the South anyway, so I already know the South is
What
my,
part?
that's my shit. I'm from
What
Florida.
part you from? Oh, you
Originally,
from
I'm from Florida.
Florida.
I'm from Miami. Yeah, I'm from Miami.
That makes
I'm moved.
sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I'm from fucking Miami. So I moved to New York. I moved up north like in 1983 was my final time moving. I was going back and forth as a younger kid. I didn't I wanted to be with my mom. She was in New York, but I
Hmm.
didn't like New York because of I couldn't see. Like, the buildings and the shit,
Yeah.
the South, you can see like fucking 10 miles in
Everything.
front
Yeah.
of you. Right. So, I was trying to get accustomed to that type of shit. And, it was just different. I was used to playing in grass in the South, and you came up here, it's concrete everywhere. So it was just weird. So I would travel back and forth until finally, I decided in '83 that okay, I'm gonna just stay. So I've been there ever since.
So let's go back to when you were a kid. What were some of your biggest musical influences?
It was well, a lot of my music, younger was in Florida. So, we didn't have any fucking rap music. Florida
Okay.
didn't really pop off with rap until after I actually left, which was Luke Skywalker. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, right. So, early influences was really my cousins because ironically, that's kind of funny. I said Luke Skywalker because it all ties in. Back in the late '70s, early '80s, they used to do mobile DJ groups, and they
Okay.
used to go around and play music outside of like stores and shit like that, and in the parks. You used to have to get a permit from the city to do it.
Okay.
And in those mobile DJ groups was Luke Skywalker. He had a mobile DJ group called Ghetto Style DJs. And I
Okay.
used to roll with my cousins that used to be the Opalaka DJs from out of Opalaka, Florida, Miami. So that's where the early musical influence came because they were in a record pool. So you already know, record pool, you're gonna get music from everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now, you know, they're gradually starting to play rap, but it wasn't it wasn't the slow groovy shit at that time. We still was, working with a lot of rap that was with, had a lot of speed. We talking about, Planet Rock, all of that type of stuff. So
Hmm.
any of that type of stuff, that's what they were playing. So that's where my early influences came from. Just being with my cousins. Shout out to my cousin, Almighty C, Opalaka DJs, and yeah, that's basically where it started. But then, it went on from there to when my mother actually bought me the first rap record, which was, I think, labeled at the time, it was King Tim the Third and the Fatback Band. She bought me that record on a 45. It was a 45. And she told me, I think this was like, shit, maybe like 79, maybe
That's the
somewhere in
year I was
there. She
born.
told me that this. That's crazy. So that she told me that this is what's going on in New York. This is what's going on. Like, like this is the scene in New York for music. So I kind of liked it, and I was trying to get more attached to it. So from there, um, you know, being not even knowing how big the culture was gonna be or whatever it was, I didn't even know what hip hop was at that time. I just wanted to do something, so I started dancing and shit. So that's how I started connecting to hip hop. I was a I would say, I don't know, a breaker, pop locker, whatever the hell, I don't know what the term is at that time, because especially coming from Florida, it was different. So I was doing that, and I entered into a lot of dance contests. They had a lot of dance contests, and I won like every one of them shit. So by the time I came to New York, yo, I was seasoned with some other type of dance skills because our influences were from um damn, what was those shows back then that they were the dance fucking shows with Casey Kasem and all of them fucking people. I forgot the name
Oh,
of
I know
them,
what you're
but
talking about. Oh, I
though
forgot what they called
right
too. Yeah.
dance machine. It was a bunch of shit that had that influence and had a lot of dancing in it outside of Soul Train. And Florida was influenced by California and New York with that. So that's where a lot of my dancing style and shit came from long before me doing any music. But it all stemmed
So
from Florida though.
so many people know you as both an MC and a producer. Which one came first?
Producer.
Producer?
Um, yeah. Um, After I got to New York, I wanted to find a way to contribute to the culture. So I
Mm,
knew, me, I felt that I had a better ear to try to put music together than I had a better science on, excuse me, actually writing songs.
mm,
I was writing stuff down, but I wouldn't say that it was top tier shit.
okay.
Everybody thinks their shit is dope when you write down shit. You be like, yo, this shit is dope. Oh. Their
Yeah.
first raps is like the best of them. If they listen
Yeah,
back to them
yeah.
shits 20 years, they'd be like cringing in their
They're no
fucking
good.
seat.
No good.
So,
Yeah.
right. It's like, what the fuck was I trying to say? Like, what the fuck was that? So at the same time, you know, I figured if I'm going to try to get into this shit, let's try to see the fastest way to try to do it is contributing in a way where I got something to offer, not me
Mhm.
asking somebody to offer me something. You understand? Like, yo, what can you do for me? Rolling up on people, yo, 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 put me on, put me on. Well, if I have something to offer, I can get myself on. So yeah, the production was definitely first.
Um, the question I think probably everybody asks, you probably hear this one all the time, but how did the connection with Master Ace and the INC crew come about?
Um, we all went to the same high school, but
Okay.
in different time frames. Okay,
Okay.
so leader of the group was in high school first, and it was a school, Sheepshead Bay High School out in Brooklyn. So he was there. He was a senior. I came in as a freshman. He was
Okay.
leaving. But two of the three members of Ice U Rock was also in the school too. So now you take Unique from Ice U Rock. He was the younger brother to Ice from Ice U Rock. So he also came into the school, but then he was behind me. You understand? So he's younger than me.
Yeah.
So we all were staggered. So Ice was older than me. So it
Yeah.
was all like it was weird. It was like a big staggered point. So at some point we all just, they were actually in a group before me. They was in this group called the Come Alive 5 MCs or something like that. And, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't rapping then at
Yeah.
all. I was dancing still. I was on some pop lock and shit. But yeah, so that's how we all met. And another connection to it all, outside of Unique, we all played on the fucking football team. So
Okay.
that was another connection, you know. So that's basically how we ended up linking with him. And by the time I'm graduating high school, he's already working on his first record. That's like '88.
Yeah.
In the sense of linking up with Marley, and then eventually, y'all know the story.
So y'all had this sound. It was, I guess, it was kind of like New York Jeep bass music, but it was called Brooklyn bass music. Who came up with that sound? Because that sounds like a
Um,
mixture of Florida. It does sound like a mixture of Florida and New York when you think about it.
because yeah, but when you like, when you think about the Southern music in Florida back, it was 808s and a lot of low holds, a lot of low hertz tones and shit to create that bass that they like to drive
Yeah.
around with in their trunk. So basically, what we did was it was like a combination of like low end theory mixed in with harder, you
Okay.
know, concepts of music.
Yeah.
Tribe Called Quest was on the metal on the more of a mellow side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was kind of like more like that. I wouldn't even say southern, but it was like a low end theory type of thing with the bass and that type of stuff mixed in with like like you would say like the California vibe, and that's what created the Brooklyn bass.
Now, was that a
Because we
collection?
even had that song, huh?
Was it a collection of y'all that came up with that sound, or was it, or did you come up with that
You
sound?
know it. It ended up being a collection because once we kind of figured out where he was going, what he wanted to do, and where he was trying to take the music, we started
Yeah.
creating stuff that be similar to that style. So we would go in and and create that type of stuff. Blues Brothers and a collective group of the other producers that would try to cater to that sound after the first um album, after the Slaughterhouse album on Delicious Vinyl. So it was more prevalent too on the second album, which was sitting on Chrome, because
And you,
he tried to come up with a formula to try to
uh,
create, to keep creating stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. And you
I was kind of
basically,
pissed off
why's that?
because I felt that that was one side of it, that was one style of it, but you got you know other people you got to cater to, which would be more New York
Yeah,
instead of
yeah, yeah,
now. At that time, you got to understand it. Now everything is more grouped together. Back at that time, when we talking about things in a territorial type of thing, musically and
yeah,
everything. So when we talking about you're repping for your city and your town, California does it the best. They've done it the best all the time. It doesn't matter what song that they put out in California. They could do California 15 times. That same concept of California, California, and it's still going to rep California no matter what. And we at that time, I just thought that we just needed to rep more New York in the sense of now putting out music that was mine and Paula's, as well as him doing what he was doing. So that's kind of like how we kind of like fell out at the beginning, creative differences
yeah.
about what should have been done.
And that's what was going to be actually my next question is like, why'd y'all have a fallout? Was it creative differences? Because if not, usually it's all about money after that. If it's not creative differences, it's money issues usually,
Um,
or both sometimes. You know,
right. I'm gonna say it was both
both.
mixed in with it was both mixed in with some, I would say, some inner jealousy type of stuff. And then when you having that from the leader,
Mm,
it's gonna be kind of difficult to for everybody else to flourish in the group. We could keep a smile on our face and everybody see everything functioning and everybody thinks that everything is good. But at that time, nobody's going to, it was a job. It's a career, but at the
mm,
same time, it's a job. This is
yeah,
what is putting money in our pockets. This is what's now, getting us to travel around the world and things of that nature. So nobody at that time is gonna just try to implode and blow up everything and say, yo, this is not right and this is that. So, the creative differences and also, money, a lot of people don't understand that some of us contributed more than just rapping, and I
yeah.
and I would be one of them. You
Well,
understand?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
if you look
yeah,
at You understand? Like I was almost on every song
Yeah.
on
You
both albums. So no matter
yeah.
whether it was just my voice saying this, whether it was Digga Dome, whether it was whatever, I was somewhere, somehow, I was the new revolutionized Flavor Flav, if you want to put it like that. You understand?
Yeah.
Without the
Yeah, because you were
antics,
considered
without
a
the
hype man at the time, right?
yeah, but I don't.
Somewhat
But see,
like when
that
with the Master
terminology,
Ace
hype man.
thing?
Right. You know the thing with the hype man thing where I kind of beg to differ with the terminology of it because I think a hype man is
Uh-huh.
someone that comes out before the show and gets the crowd hype and
Yeah,
says
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
If
yeah.
you're on right, if you're on the actual record, I don't consider that a hype man. And Flavor was on those records, and I was on
Yeah.
those records. Outside of my slow, I have more solo records on albums than Flavor has with Public Enemy, but at the same time, we contributed to the same thing.
Yeah.
Like and with him with the outbursts and motherfuck John Wayne and all that other stuff. So that was similar to some of the stuff that I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, with the Digger Dome and the this and that, and all of that stuff. It was more than just being in the group. You understand? You're contributing to the whole, to everything. It's not just show up and rap. The same hours he spent in the studio is the same hours I spent in the studio. It wasn't just like he called me to come and do this and then I bounced. He was there till 3 in the morning. I was there till 3 in the morning. So it's way different than you
Damn.
just calling some people together to say, yo, let's put this fucking group together and we gonna go make some music. Nah, 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 nah. It was way different than that. Like I said, we know this guy since high school. Wasn't just like we just ran to him at some show and he said, yo, look, I like these guys. I want to put them on. I seen these group of guys. I was doing this show and I want to put them on. So it was different. So, the fallout, you know, like you said, it could be both. And it was creative differences because I felt at the time when we did Sitting on Chrome that it should have been B-side that should have been the single with showcasing all of us. Because B-side
Mhm.
was the B-side of Sitting on Chrome, and that should have been either that record or it should have been the Maintain record that we did, that me and Ace did. I felt that should have been the two next singles because we are a group, and outside of Saturday Night Live, we had no other, you know, things that were showcasing the group. That was it.
Yeah.
Other than you hearing my
Yeah,
voice, like I said, I'm on every record.
contrary to what people think, that those albums were a collective. It wasn't just one artist did everything. It was definitely
Right.
a whole collective on those albums and whatnot.
As me and Norm produce, I'm also rapping. You understand? On
Yeah.
my own songs. You Can't Find Me. That was one of my first solo songs but it wasn't pushed, it wasn't considered, I guess, one of my solo songs until we did Crazy Drunken Style. We produced that and you understand, I'm rapping. So it was way more than just yeah, we having a fallout about whatever. We contribute a lot to this situation, so we should have a bigger voice, and we should all come to a vote to say what should be next. It shouldn't just be you and showcasing you, and that was a lot of it. Outside of him going and doing, doing some grimy stuff, you're doing publishing deals with, our shares of publishing that he shouldn't have control over. There was a lot of stuff that was going on from the inside. But see, when you have a bad leader, that usually happens. You know, if your leader's not good, you got to have a good leader.
Yeah.
And if you don't, if your leader, how far can you really go?
And I'm guessing y'all don't talk
You
to this
understand?
day still?
Nope.
And that's a lot of that's
To a
going
point,
around. I mean, a lot of that's going.
it's to
I
a point
interviewed
where, right.
5 Footer
Uh huh.
recently, 5 Footer from Black Moon, and it's like just hearing some of the things he was said, like you start the group and you kind of pretty much get put to the side. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Right.
wow, that's crazy. Like how I start something, y'all just shelf me.
That but see, you know what? People get mad at me when I talk about the situation because it's something
Yeah,
that affected me and then I had no control over. I would have handled everything differently because if I'm the person that sees that these people have talent, I'm gonna sit back like even like a Dr. Dre or whoever and try to push the younger talent to the people that's out there in the street that want this type of street stuff, that want that rugged stuff. You had two well capable artists on your roster, meaning Paula Perry and I, that could have pushed that to the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
level. You understand that? And nobody was rapping like Paula Perry at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Nope.
It was things that was conscious. That was things that was, we had people that was, I would say, in the sense of the Antoinettes and the Sweet Teas and Little Kim Little Kim wasn't there yet at
Nope.
as Little Kim Kim. Biggie was still developing her. So at that time, Paula had a spot where she could have, got her little got into her little groove, and you never know what would have happened. Even though eventually she ended up still getting a deal, but it wasn't the same thing. Even
Yeah.
down with that, they did some shit to fuck up her deal with that situation. But yeah, like Ace was even Ace, he went around the world long before I started going back overseas. I started going back overseas in 2015. So from
Uh,
1995 all the way through that time, he went and told his story to everybody to make them feel that I was the one that made the group, disband. And I'm like, I'm not the leader of the group, so how could I make the group disband? It wasn't Lord Digga Incorporated. You
yeah.
understand? So that doesn't make sense. And this is what I said about the leader. He doesn't want to own up and take responsibility for what he did, outside of everything else. It was a point where, he even told us that the girls in the group were like our sisters. So how do you end up marrying Lachey? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You understand? It doesn't make sense. This stuff was going on, and we under our noses. They were like Ike and Tina Turner right under our noses. They didn't get into no relationship after the group disbanded. It's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's Ike and Tina Turner shit going on, and we just was like, yo, whatever, not paying attention to it. So those two basically broke up the group, basically
Yeah, I can
two
see
against
that
those
because
two.
you start showing favoritism to your girl and stuff when she part of the group and whatnot. I can see
There you
that
go. And
happening
we
easily.
not supposed to know that. And we not. I'll
Yeah.
give you an incident. Um, One of my remixes, you may know, I did a remix for the Mysterious Misfits,
I remember
a
them.
song called Upside Down, where I sampled Diana Ross.
Yeah.
Upside Down, the song. Nobody was doing stuff like that. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So before the track went to the Mysterious Misfits, Lachey, at the time, not knowing, like I said, they in relationships and doing all type of crazy stuff. She heard the track and a couple other tracks, so she wanted it. But this was long before she started recording her demos and stuff like that to try to get her a deal. So nobody can claim anything. If you want a track, you assigned to Master Ace's production company, so you need to get him to give me some paperwork stating that, okay, we're taking this track and I'm going to pay you money for this right now to hold on to this. This track is bought by us. We want this. That
Hmm.
never happened.
Yeah.
So now weeks go by, we get back off the road, and I go into a meeting up at Columbia. And sure enough, yo, we can use that track for a remix for our song. Can we get that? No problem. All right, we got a check for you, $10,000.
Yeah.
So what do you think happened? You know what happened. But here's the thing. Those two tried to make me feel that I gave away her track. Yo, you sold Lachey's track. I was like, what do you mean? Did she record on it yet? It'll be different if she even made a song and then I just lifted the track off of her and then gave it to them. You didn't even do nothing. All you said is you wanted it. I want that. What is that? That's
Yeah.
window shopping. I'm a producer that has made more money doing production than I've ever made with the INC. So you think that
Yeah.
I'm not going to be out here hustling to try to make my money? Are you crazy? I only get at that time. If we got $5,000, I'm getting what? 10%. $500 a show? Really? And then on the production side, I'm getting $10,000 a track. So
Yeah.
are you crazy right now? Like, come on now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody's gonna do that. I'm not trying to hold on to music for somebody that don't even know whether they want to sing or not. You don't even have anything promising at that time. So, but that's the type of stuff that was going on.
And they probably feel like you're
unbeknownst to the
obligated to
fans.
have to give them the beat because you're part of the same group,
Oh yeah, sure. When this
you know?
person, when the leader was doing things to take money out of our mouths like this, he knew if he produced a track or co-produced a track, that would cut half of our money in half. We were getting $3,000 a track from Delicious Vinyl. So what he did was go and buy machines so that he can make music, so we would have less tracks produced on his album. So that's what he did for sitting on Chrome,
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah. So you
So
would be worried about me selling a track to Mystidious Misfits and you doing that type of shit? Yeah, all right, bro.
and I'm glad you brought that name up. I totally forgot about them cats. I need to reach out and see if I could get an interview with them cats. Because
Yo,
that's
those
the
my
kind of
bros, man.
those are like that's down my lane of who I'm trying to interview. You know, everybody's like trying to
Yeah,
interview
those my bros,
mainstream
man.
artists and stuff.
Man, those
So
my
let's get
bros.
into
Like for
some of your
real.
production. So you co-produce a lot of tracks. You produce a lot of tracks. Do you got a favorite song that stands out to you,
Hmm.
or is there just a song that maybe was just more successful than the rest or something?
Well, you already know what the most successful song that we produce is One More Chance and Biggie. So I mean,
Okay,
so I
that's a nice one.
outside
That's a nice one. Yeah.
outside of that, I mean, the original version, even though the remix, we still, all, it doesn't
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah,
matter. The
yeah,
title
yeah,
song, yeah,
yeah,
whatever. It's still the same lyrics, whatever. I don't, whatever. But yeah, that would be the biggest. But off the same album, Everyday Struggle is still one of my tops that we did off of Big's album. Uh, one of my favorite tracks as well off of, was it Slaughterhouse album? I don't know if it's Slaughterhouse or Signal. Who You Jacking that I did for Paula Perry.
okay, okay,
It's, be, it's because of where I got it from and how I chopped it up with the horns and like it was just, yeah, for me that was one of my first step out productions of me just not just looping up everything. Like I'm a great looper and underneath drum putter and snares and hi-hats, genius at that. So that was one of my first times that I stepped outside of just straight looping something, but taking bits and pieces of the record and just creating, the sound of whatever that fuck that was at that time. That was like really my first
yeah.
time doing it. So that was a good song for me.
You
A lot
from
of shit that
Florida?
we.
You from Florida, but you ended up moving to Brooklyn. I've interviewed a shit ton of Brooklyn rappers on this show. I don't know what it is about Brooklyn, but I guess y'all got a militant mindset or whatnot. What role did Brooklyn play in shaping your sound and your identity?
I think that I think Brooklyn grounded me and just let me see different things because I lived all around Brooklyn. Like when I first got to New York, we were living in Brownsville in Riverdale Towers, which
Yeah,
is right behind Tilden houses and Langston Hughes and all of these houses over there. The Brooklyn houses and all of these buildings that were over there. Um, and early, I got to be around a lot of that, seeing that, and then from there I moved into Flatbush, and then Flatbush was like, oh shit, it's houses, and then but still one of the most notorious projects there is. Vanderveer houses is less than 70 feet away from me. I would say
damn,
about, I'll say nah, it's more than 70 feet. I say about 800 feet away from me is Vanderveer houses, which is now one of the most notorious Crip projects there is in Brooklyn. So
damn.
me connecting with those type of people, and then me connecting with my Brownsville people, all of those things. Then plus, I'm already, that the Miami side of where I lived at in Opelika, which is one of the more tougher sides in places to live. You know, when you're younger, you don't really know all of this. You like, cause you
Yeah.
oblivious to this shit, cause you think you invisible, so you don't really know like how really bad shit is. But now I know, you know, as an adult, I'm like, damn, I was living in places like this. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, that type of shit, that shaped me. You know, just seeing the different things and just talking to the different cultures of people, you know, my Jamaican people, my Guyanese people, my Trini people, you know, learning their culture and then just implementing that type of feel throughout the music where, you know, I would try to cater to all that different melting pot of shit in Brooklyn. You know, with the music with this and then the lyrics with this, you know, just try to put all that shit together to make it a perfect marriage, knowing that, yeah, this is a solid foundation of where I created me. You know, I was created in Brooklyn in the sense of me as a artist.
Yeah. So you are an artist and a producer. What was it like navigating the industry in the 90s as an artist and a producer?
Hard work because you really had to work, meaning you really had to get on the grind. Meaning that word grind was really it really meant something back then. You know, like I'm the only producer that didn't have his own equipment.
His own
So I
what?
used to travel. I
You
didn't
said
have
his
my
own
own
what?
equipment.
Oh,
Equipment. I didn't
okay.
have my own equipment. I had no SP. I had no nothing.
Yeah.
I had nothing. So I used to go to my friend's house,
Mm,
my voice crib. My dude, Big Ezo. Shout out to Big Ezo. Um, he's the DJ for Nikki D. So I
okay.
used to go to his basement and start constructing stuff. Go there with my discs, records. I used to leave records over his house. Be like, yo, anything you hear, you make shit, you do whatever. And we ended up start producing for groups, doing all type of stuff. So at the same time, I used to travel to rest in peace, Norm Glover, aka Witch Doc, which you know that was my partner in Blues Brothers. I lived in Flatbush and he lived downtown Brooklyn. So I used to take the train to his house. And at the time, he was married and
Uh,
shit. So we used to be on a time schedule. Like his wife used to be like, all right, with the ruckus, and you know, you got a certain amount of time to do this and shit. I used to have to go smoke weed on his fucking fire escape. So this shit was crazy. But that was the grind. You know, I'd take the fucking train and go over there with a bag full of fucking records and sit there or actually stand there and watch him show me how to use the the, the EPS 16 plus, the ASR 10, all of that shit. You know, those are the things that I cherish. You know, and it made me more of the I would say the spokesperson for the Blues Brothers. You know, Norm
mhm.
was laid back. I was the one that was in everybody's face. Like y'all gonna listen to this shit. Like, I got some come up here with 4 or 5 tapes in a bag and play this shit, and y'all gonna take something off these fucking tapes, and it worked every time. Never failed. I don't think there's a placement that we went for that we didn't get. I
That's
can't
what's
remember
up.
one. I can't remember one. And you know, our most, you know, I would say outside of Big, you know, I felt that our most accomplished thing that we did was actually working with Old Dirty Bastard because at that time there was no one touching any Wu Tang records outside of Wu Tang members, which would be,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know, RZA and was it Fifth Disciple or whoever else it was,
Fourth disciple, I think.
Fourth
Yeah.
Disciple. Um, um, yeah, so that was a big monumental thing for us too. You know, being able to do that remix for Old Dirty Bastard, man, was it was crazy because you know that shit actually had to get okay by RZA. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that shit was monumental. So when you know, we got the call back from Dante Ross and shit like, yo, it's a go. I was like, wow. So they must really, he must like that shit, like for real, for real. So yeah,
And I never
that was
thought
another
about
big
that
thing.
Dirty was really the only artist that dropped a solo and did have other producers because he had a track from Neptunes too as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
and that's
Yep.
probably why his success was really taking off with that album, man.
Yeah.
Because he didn't just
He was
stick to
reaching
that
in places
Wu-Tang
that and
sound.
he
He was going
right.
here,
He
going
was
there.
getting in places and sections of places where, they wasn't,
Yeah.
you know. Me and Mariah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
he was in
yeah,
places that right. You understand? He was in places that they wasn't until
yeah.
Meth did the song with Mary. Until
There yeah.
until Ghost did the song with he did a song with Mary too, right? I think they both did songs with
Yeah, I
Mary.
think so, yeah.
But all I have to say is, yeah, he was more than what people thought he was, and that's another shit with that was, I didn't see him the whole time that the remix,
Uh-huh.
whatever was flying off and shit. So we happened to have to go and film a segment for MTV Raps. So we're in the green room. Guess who comes through the fucking door
Who?
at 8:45 in the fucking morning? A son unique. Here comes Mr. ODB. Now, mind you, he hasn't seen me. He hasn't
Yeah,
said, "Yo, I love that remix" or anything. This is the first time he's
yeah.
seeing him, and that has happened now for almost maybe a good 5 months, 6 months since it happened.
Mhm.
So, we talking, and he greets me and says, "Yo, man, I want to thank you that remix is dope. Yo, yo, yo." First thing he says, "Yo, look, let's go get a 40." Didn't I just tell you it was 8:45 in the morning?
Wow.
Yeah. So we come back with 2 40 ounces. We walk talking about the remix, talking about him and just Wu Tang in general. And he was like, "Yo, keep doing the shit you doing. Yo, you rising, God." And yo, that was one of the most memorable moments for me. I never expected that at all. I was looking yeah, for people to like it, but to get approval from the actual person and then to get approval from, you know, the founder of this phenomenal fucking group that was on
The
the rise
Abbott
at that
the
time.
Abbott
Right.
RZA.
Exactly. So, that was a great thing for me and Norm at that time. Blues Brothers, we did some shit, you know. It's not as much as others, but we did a lot of quality shit. That's the part that I try to say. Did a lot of stuff, but we did a lot of quality stuff too, and things that people wish they could have done and got their fucking hands on. But we fell into it, definitely.
Now, are you still creating music today? And if so, what inspires you nowadays?
What inspires me now is that really me, because I still at my at my age now, because this is the only culture that puts the age
Age
bracket on
limit,
shit.
yeah.
Yeah, we got an age limit to it. We the only ones, everything else, rock and roll, this, that, motherfuckers 85 years old, performing with
Yeah,
no problem and nobody saying anything. And they got to use more energy than us. They playing instruments and doing
yeah,
all type of
yeah,
shit. But at the same time, we the ones that get this stigmatism of, you get a certain age and then you should be washed up, I guess.
yeah.
But no, I inspired me by me knowing that, you know, I've learned my lessons. Like being in school for 35 years, if that makes sense. I don't know if Mike can be in school that long or 40 years. And I've learned all of the lessons. And I know now, when I first started, yeah, I wanted to be aggressive. I wanted to be the rough and rugged, roughing in that voice on the kid, Lord Digger, all of that. But not really understanding that the records are what's going to really drive people. And you got to reach out to different people, different audiences. It takes time to learn certain things. But also at the same time, enhancing my craft and getting
Mhm.
better at what I wanted to get better at, which was rhyming and making songs. The production part, I could make a beat. Give me an SP 1200 and 950. I'll make a track for you in maybe 7 minutes, probably less than that. That's really nothing. But I wanted to
Yeah,
master the art of the craft of now being the MC part of. So it's kind of, people will look at it and say, okay, yeah, well, he's still trying to get on. Like, no, I'm not trying to get on. I've been on. It's the fact that
yeah,
I just sat back and watched to watch the landscape and watch the the pulse of the game and still creating, but just not putting out stuff, still writing and doing those type of things. So me, I'm inspired by me knowing that I've actually gotten way better with my craft in the sense of knowing that I could create something out of nothing and, still be me. I don't have to sell out to anyone and say I got to make these records because I want to get radio play or whatever the fuck that is. But yeah, I think I'm me. I'm my biggest inspiration now as far as like looking at people that I know that's my age. So if you put it on the age bracket thing and seeing the stuff that they're doing and knowing the stuff that I'm doing, that I
Yeah,
feel that, anybody that I felt that was, you know, had a jump on me or was ahead of me as far as like just records and of that nature and being acknowledged as an MC, I feel that I've caught up to them now. That I can stand on any stage with anyone now at this point.
that's
Anyone.
what's.
Like, yeah,
And are you working on any specific
definitely.
projects right now?
Yes, I'm working on which would be my third release, which the title of the EP is called Jack Tatum. Anybody that's, familiar with sports, football, and things of that nature, Jack Tatum was one of the most feared players in the NFL in the mid '70s, early '80s.
Who do you play for?
He played for the Oakland Raiders. He
Okay.
wore number 30. He wore number 32, but his original number was 31. He went to college at Ohio State. He was a superior athlete. Really, 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 really fucking good. But he became, um, like they kind of like shitted on him at the end of his career. Um, you know, in a nothing game by mistake, he had hit a play and paralyzed them.
Oh,
And a lot of since that time, they just started looking at him, like, yeah, you know, so they
he's
kind
the
of phased
guy
him
that
out of the game.
paralyzed
But
somebody. Yeah.
yeah, the name of the player was his name was Darryl Stingley, and actually his son Darryl Stingley Jr. is playing in the NFL now. But yeah, the title of the album is the EP is called Jack Tatum, and it's like a homage to just hard hitting shit when just the play off that
Get
anybody
it?
that
I get
knows
it. Yeah.
who Jack Tatum was, yeah. So that
Was he
should be
like the
out.
Mean Joe Green of the Raiders or something?
He was one of them. The Raiders had a plethora of fucking dudes that were
Yes,
fucking
back in the
menacing.
days.
He was
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the top ones. They also had this guy named Ted Hendricks and Otis Sistrunk. They had a lot of fucking crazy guys, but he was definitely one of the top ones. His partner in crime, George Atkinson, he played beside him, and he was just as vicious as Jack Tatum. Like Jack Tatum wrote his book, They Call Me Assassin. If anybody want to go and look that up, where he talked about where he was knocking off players' shoes. He was hitting them so
Damn.
fucking hard that he would knock their fucking shoes off. Yeah. So
So
Jack
you a
Tatum,
big
title of
Raiders
the
fan back
EP.
in the days?
No, I'm a 49er fan for life.
Okay.
I've been a 49er fan since 1982.
That was what, Montana years?
Yep. He came up in
Yeah.
Montana, and before that was Jim Plunkett. I
Yeah.
became a 49ers fan because of my stepfather was a Dallas fan. So I had to find a team that could play them and make him
Yeah.
mad and shit. So yeah, so I kind of adopted the 49ers by default. Once I knew that team made him mad, I was like, yep, that's my team. And I've been with them forever. But I
So
like the
we
Raiders too, because I like the Raiders because the Raiders are tough.
yeah, everybody
Fucking
like the
tough.
colors. Everybody love the colors. So we got this question that we be asking every now and then. Like, if you had an alien come down from whatever planet and you had to play one song to basically tell the story or describe what hip hop is, what song would you play? And somebody actually said, when I first heard this question, they said, what was it? The Biggie song. It was all a dream. Juicy. They said Biggie Juicy.
Mm,
I said Tupac, the old school joint.
Nah, it would have to be. But see, you know, hip hop at one point, the culture, rap, rap is the music
Hmm.
of hip
Yeah.
hop is the culture. It had like two sides, meaning
What you mean by that?
meaning there was two sides to artists. Either you were going to be ego tripping, which
Okay.
is, or you were going to be, uh, I would say, talking about life. So you
Okay.
either you're going to be braggadocious or you're going to be
Yeah.
talking about the things that's going on, right? So
Yeah.
for me, if we're going to say, okay, what would be the one thing that okay, the alien, and I would say, okay, alien come down, and I would say, I would have to go with the message because that's originally how it started. Talking about
Okay.
things that were going, making people aware of the things that were going on around them. You understand?
Yeah.
Message, the messenger, a message telling people what's going on around them, and in a rhythmic form. Which now we go, okay, that's rap music, and this is hip hop. So yeah, it would probably be the not probably it would be the message definitely.
And if you could go back and give advice to your younger self and about just strictly about the music game, what would it be?
Get paid for everything I do. Everything. I don't give a fuck what it is. If I spit on the sidewalk at an event, I want to get paid for that. Like dead ass serious. It's like whatever, like whatever it is, get paid for it. Yeah, because and another thing too, you know, I want to say this. You talk about what influenced me. Let's talk about the people I influenced.
Okay.
Let's talk about the name Digga. Where the fuck did that come from before me? I
Well,
know
I
that.
would.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is Raw Digger and there was Lord Digger. I know. I remember you first.
So the word Digga is actually a word from the UK or overseas. It's spelled Digger. Diggamite is something that
Okay.
something that's in your. It grows in your toes, like toe fungus and shit. It's a diggermite. But it wasn't spelled how I spelled it. It wasn't, what I'm saying? I was the first original person to do this. And like I said, my whole name was an acronym. It was Lord Digger. Lord was broken down to lyricists obsessed with rhyming daily. That's what Lord meant. And
Yeah.
Digger was distant illustrations going global after life. Like, so it's something that I created from scratch. Even though I've got the name, I saw the name on the back of a album cover, which was a movie, and it was an officer. His name was Detective or Sergeant Digger something, but it wasn't spelled with the A. It was spelled with the D. It was spelled with the ER. And I
Yeah.
saw that shit. I think it was either damn, I can't remember the movie, but it's a black. I don't say exploitation movie, but it's one of them type of movies. I don't know if it
Uh huh.
was something up in Harlem or something, but that's where I saw the name at. Detective Digger or some crazy shit. And that's when I started formulating all this crazy stuff and coming up with that. So what I'm saying as far as inspiration, because I saw, after I did that, there's so many spinoffs of my spelling of my name.
Yeah.
Like Grave Diggers. You go and put a Z on it. Now you got Grave Diggers. Then you
Yeah.
got Six Figure Digger. That was a producer from Uptown that was, producing for Dipset. And then you had Rod Digger. So there's probably a couple more I'm leaving out. Kurt Digger is a DJ. I never knew that I had to trademark my name. I just thought my name
Yeah.
was my name, and that was it. Once it was on record, nobody would try to use your name. Everybody could be anybody could be a Lord. It was Lord Finesse, Lord Jamal. It was, that wasn't a thing,
Yeah.
but that my moniker was my name. Digger made was me. That's who you identified me as. So, you know, I guess my influences, like I said, you got to get paid for everything. I want to be paid for influencing people. To just say, okay, I want to use Digga. If it was that easy, I would have just said I would call myself KRS too.
Yeah. And it makes sense because I mean, I think if you just said the term like digger in hip hop, I think a lot of people would refer to Raw Digger, not knowing that you actually came before her. I know I would typically if I
Exactly.
was to be like, yo, Digger. And if I was just to say
Right.
just Digger, like I'm about to interview Digger, I guarantee most people will be like, "Oh, you about to interview Raw Digger?" And they're like,
Exactly.
"Nah, Lil
And that
Digger."
and that's crazy to me. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. But yeah, that would be the thing that would be the only I would tell my younger self, like, yo, look, you do this, do that, reverse this, and that could have never happened. But like I said, I never knew I had to do that. I
But I
I
got a
never
lot of
knew
love
that.
for Raw Digger though, because Raw Digger is actually
Yeah,
significant
she's dope.
to my life. She was her and
Right.
Rampage was the very first show that I ever booked as a booking agent. When I didn't even know that I could book an artist as a booking agent.
Right.
I didn't know any of that shit. Rampage just kind of like, yo, man, I need you to get me a show, and then sent me over this info. Like, you just gotta study this info, go holler at a club promoter, and this is all you gotta know, man. If he asks questions, and that shit worked like so easy at first until you get into it. Then you start realizing the janky promoters start coming out of the woodworks, and
Ah, yeah,
every
that
show
part.
can't go perfect. That's for sure.
Right.
All right, before we
Definitely.
let you go though, man, any shout outs you want to do, man? And sorry we was running late.
Nah, I ain't worrying about that. I ain't worried about that. This is what now us artists that's independent and things of that nature that are still have something to give and contribute to the culture. I would have waited 30 minutes. It wouldn't have mattered. You understand? So you hit me up to do an
Appreciate it.
interview. So that
Appreciate it.
means you have interest in something that I've done in the past. My contribution
Yeah,
to hip hop and the things that I'm doing now, which is I think that
yeah.
I've grown a lot. And the newer music to me, wow. I'll send you something to your email. I'll send you a motherfucking a we transfer. You
Okay, I
tell
actually
me.
do music
I,
reviews on
I
Saturdays. So if
listen. I'll send you a we transfer of fucking just different music, and I tell you right now. And you talking about shows. That's another thing. I need to get out here to perform. I got music. I got a thumb drive full of fucking music that should be heard. And we're not just talking about any music. We talking about
yeah,
music. We talking about that shit. Not just oh shit, yeah, that's bigger. Oh yeah, that's cool. Nah, it's not. It won't be. Nah, it's just cool. It's some shit that'll move the crowd. What an MC does. That's what
yeah,
I do. I think that my performances. I like performing more than I like recording. I hate going to the studio. Not in the sense of hate like that, but in the sense of just to get the song out and hear it and all of that. I just want the finished product. I just want to get on stage.
yeah,
Like sometimes I'll just go to the studio just to do a rough vocal, just to get the TV track. Tell PF Cutting. Shout out to my bro PF Cutting when the East is in the house. I would tell him, yo, look, just do a rough draft real quick. Let's do a rough vocal and we just mix it good enough. Let's mix it so I can get a TV track of this. And by the time I go to perform this, I'm gonna know the song and all of that, so it won't be a problem. I just like performing because I know
yeah,
that feeling. I know with the crowd, especially when you performing some shit that they like and they never heard, and you keep hitting them with some shit, and everybody's receptive to it. There's no better feeling than that. No better feeling than that. So definitely, I will
yeah.
be
That is
sending
the
you
most
music. But
important part, though. Of I think of hip hop or music in general is the performances. Anyways, this is the best way to
right,
really give the fans
get
what
into it
they
with an artist. Right,
they want. Really get engagement with them. Make them leave
live
like they
performance.
felt like they really got their money's worth. You know what I'm saying?
Live performance. Live performance. I'm the master of just switching things. One verse here, two here, go to this. Go to some other listen. Now, I take more pride in that now than anything, and the reason why is because of us being more mature artists now. You
Mm.
know, I want to show that I am not labored, or my voice is, my breath control is great. You know, I want to show these things that, yeah, you cannot say, okay, yeah, yo, the older artists, yeah, come on, let's forget about them. Nah, you
Stop
can't forget
rapping
about
after
us.
35. Yeah, that's what they
Yeah,
say.
you
Stop
can't
rapping
forget
after
about us.
35.
I will bust your little young ass. Pause. No fucking Diddy. I will bust your ass on stage. All that jumping around, rhyming over your vocals. We don't do that shit here.
Yeah.
There's only vocals on my track is fucking ad libs. I don't rhyme over my vocals. I will bust your ass for an hour or more. I'm telling you. Won't even break a sweat. All I need is a bottle of water and a towel. Need a rag just to wipe my face. That's it. I'm good. Yeah, but shout out, man. You know, Team Demo
Okay.
is my new production team. I've been with them since like 2002. I've been working with them, and
That's a
Big
while now.
Ezo, and yeah, um, DJ J Ronan. My bro Frank Knight. I'm about to go to his album release listening party, the Glenville Project tomorrow. Shout out to Frank Knight. Shout out to my man Ozzy Oz. He did his first event. The other night I was hosting it. Event. His thing is Swag Dojo. Something that he's trying to bring to the culture as well. Shout out to him. Shout out to Bernadette Price and her album that she just released, Widows Cry. The whole Duck Down family 30-year anniversary show coming up. I mean, I should have been a part of that too, but I guess I just get looked over sometimes. I get glazed over like a fucking donut sometimes.
You
But
did some
no
production for
complaints.
some of them guys too?
Well, Team Demo did Haram for Sean Price
Okay.
on the Mike Tyson album.
Oh, okay. That was a dope
And
album.
you know, right, in 96, I was on Ducktown Presents. You forget that, did you?
Nah, yeah. I mean, I know
Ducktown
you did
Presents.
so much stuff though, dude. Like y'all producers, y'all don't work with
Right.
so many cats, man.
Yeah, but this was like one of the first times that now I'm outside of the INC, because
Yeah.
the INC was still going on at this time. Um, yeah, I did a verse on the song on the Duck Down Presents album with Rock Ness and everybody. Yeah, I was one of the. I don't know. I think I was the only one that wasn't signed to Duck Down.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen
That
to that one again.
Duck Down Presents album. I think it was 1995 or four,
I
somewhere
remember that
96,
joint.
somewhere in there.
I
Uh huh.
definitely remember
Yeah,
that
I was
joint.
probably the only one that wasn't on Duck Down. It was like one of my. It was crazy. It was funny about it because I remember that day and shit. We went to D&D Studios, and
Oh, D&D.
as soon as I came out the fucking booth, I walked into like the no, not for free, but in the sense of whatever he wanted me to do, whether it was for free or not, I was gonna do it because it was Buckshot,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I love Duck Down. You understand?
Yeah.
I love everybody that was over there, so I was gonna do it regardless, whether it was for free or not. But in a sense of back then, we talking about like after you do things, you know, it's not the same thing as now. Obviously, motherfuckers is cash apping you and fucking direct
Yep.
deposits and all type of shit.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I was expecting, yeah, okay, come up to the office or something like that, and then he write me a check from the office out of it, something
When
like
he
that.
already
I
had it
wasn't so
ready
it
for
was
you. Yeah.
right, right. So that's what I was expecting. Not that day because I think I went up there. It was like a Friday or Thursday, one of those 2 days. I know it was close to the weekend, so I wasn't expecting that money right then and there. So yeah, that was the shocking part about it. That's when I knew that Buck was about business
Business, yeah.
always. You know, young business um dude. At that time, and he was rapping and still doing those type of things to do at that time. So that shit was amazing to me. I was like, damn, I'm on a fucking label. Like, what the fuck? This is fucking genius. So that part.
Well, I
But
appreciate you taking the time
that
out, man. You're more than welcome to come back on anytime, man.
no, you want me to come back on? I'll come back on. We can talk about
Yeah,
whatever. You
yeah.
know, that's only you just whatever. But
I
at the
usually have
same
people on
time,
here
yeah,
for
I'm
like
gonna send you
second
that music.
part twos and part threes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Whenever you're ready. Say we say after the after I drop the EP or whatever else, but I'm gonna send you
Yeah,
music now
we can do that.
because, like I said, I need to get linked into some shows, and especially down there because I've seen some of my people performing down there. I've seen people performing in
Yeah,
Greenville, South Carolina. So they trying to do some. They was doing shit out there. So yeah, and I'm not that expensive, man. Like I'm not. Come on, like for real, for real. Like I'm not charging crazy amount of money. The amount of money I'm charging for the show that you're gonna get, it don't even add up. You're like, yo, I
yeah.
should pay him more for that shit. Like, for real, for real. So, yeah,
That's what's up. Well, I'm gonna make sure. Well,
definitely.
you got the email, so
Yeah,
yeah,
that same email, right?
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
cool.
All right.
No
Well, I
problem.
appreciate you, man, and enjoy the rest of your
I
night,
appreciate
man.
you too, Paul. Yo,
All
I
right.
will, man. Um, go upstairs and probably play some college football.
I know that's right.
Yeah, that's what I do
All
in my
right.
pastime other than writing.
Okay. And I'm gonna definitely anything I see you posting on social media, I'm gonna make sure I give it that like and that comment. Help get that
Yo,
engagement
thanks, Paul.
going. All right.
Yes. Fayettenam.
Appreciate you,
Digga the
man.
Heisman. Appreciate you, man.
All
Salute.
right.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Anytime. Peace.
Peace.
Well, there you have it. We was running a little bit late, man. Sorry about that. Basically, StreamYard stopped working a couple hours before I had to go on, and then we also had a breaker that went out like the day before yesterday. We had to have somebody come through and change out the breaker, so they had to cut off the power. But I was only like 10 minutes late. So, but yeah, a lot of interesting stuff in there. I mean, a lot to say about the Master A situation and whatnot, but that's the thing with the business. Typically when people have fallouts, it's typically the creative differences or money or both. And he said for him it was probably both. You know what I'm saying? And whatnot, but definitely for all y'all cats that are true fans of real hip hop, go back and check out the Master Ace and the INC albums. You had the Slaughterhouse one, and I forgot what the name of the other one was. And just go, Google Lord Digga and just check out some of the things he's done, on his discography. Check out some of the people he's produced for. Like you said, Biggie One More Chance was probably his biggest record and whatnot. But he also said he produced for ODB, and ODB's album was very, very successful with the freaking food stamp card cover. And I totally forgot that ODB was actually had like Neptunes and other producers, which was smart. So your sound just don't be one sound. I understand he was a Wu Tang artist, but Wu Tang as a group can have, the Wu Tang sound. But as a solo artist, you don't necessarily got to have the Wu Tang sound. You could create your own sound as a solo artist. And then when you go to Wu Tang, you still do the Wu Tang sound, but while you're doing Ghostface album or the Raekwon album, you could just create your own sound. It doesn't have to necessarily be Wu Tang, because when you're a solo artist, your brand is you. Jizza brand is Jizza. It's not necessarily the Wu Tang brand. So yeah, man. Definitely make sure y'all go check out Lord Digger. Let's see what we got coming up. We still got a bunch of interviews on the way. Also, go follow Paul Pickett Podcast. I just did 3 interviews on the Paul Pickett Podcast. I just did we did Francesco Ricci, who's gonna be fighting in Hollywood, Florida here soon. Steve the Tomahawk Townsell, and we just did Roberto Armas interviews. So go check those out on the Paul Pickett Podcast, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, TikTok, Twitter. Um, Also, we got let's see what interviews we still got. Tomorrow we got Jay Fliz, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Unsigned independent artist out of Boston or Massachusetts way. Really dope. We still got Pretty P, July 10th. We still got Swayzak of the Goats, June 19th. We still got Michael Myers, June 27th. We still got Hoffa of Killer Army, June 20th. And we got Rex coming back on June 26th with Artisan. And Rex and Artisan are both part of ST the Squad, which is Terminology's little crew as well. So yeah, we still got a lot of dope interviews on the way. And I just did what was the last interview? Just so y'all, just did the interview with my guy from Dizzle, Livio Harris. Go check that out. If y'all don't know, Livio Harris is the guy, or one of the guys actually, who found and produced Adina Howard. And he actually wrote about 80% of the first album for Adina Howard. So definitely go check that out as well. And I'm actually gonna once I get done with this, I'm gonna restream on Instagram because I didn't have enough time to link in the Instagram live stream. So we just right now we're live on Facebook and YouTube. Appreciate everybody that's tuned in, and about to call it a night. Tomorrow I will be doing live music reviews. Probably gonna do about 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I appreciate y'all tuning in to another episode of Live from Fayettenam. And I'm actually going live on Thursdays now as well, depending on if I got an interview booked on that Thursday. If I don't got an interview for that Thursday, I'm not going to go live. Fridays will always be Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, regardless. And music reviews, I didn't do them last week, but I will be doing them this week, which is tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, but Saturday. So tomorrow we got Jay Fliz. Saturday we got live music reviews, and who knows, maybe Lord Digga send me some tracks. And just so y'all know, Lord Digga actually came out before Raw Digga. So if you say Digga, I know most people think you're referring to Raw Digga, but Lord Digga was actually before Raw Digga. And you know, you can't forget about who came before you, man. I mean, y'all new generation, y'all can try, but it's not gonna benefit you, man. Just trying to block out who came before you, acting like it's just totally irrelevant, like it has no importance whatsoever. But I appreciate y'all tuning in. Another episode, the one and only Paul Masson. And this is Live from Fayettenam. Peace. I'm out.